Do not keep scrolling. Do not X out of this. Do not select next video. If you've ever had any dreams or aspirations of traveling full time, like you see on Instagram and on YouTube and on TikTok, we have a very special guest on today's podcast. His name is Matt Candee. He also goes by WorldNomac. And we talked through how he was in a corporate job for 4.5 years, developing a very meticulous plan that would one day allow him to travel full time and make money while he's traveling like he currently is. He's 27 years old. He's traveling the world in pursuit of every single country. And I had him on today's podcast because a very important pillar of human sustainability is the work you do and the fun that you have. And in his world right now, those two things are colliding, which is awesome. The internet's a little shoddy. So in the very beginning, it's a little fuzzy. So I promise you it gets better from here. But the content and value that Mac brings to this is beyond worth it sticking around. Specifically finding out the myths behind traveling full time and also how he was able to do it. An incredible dude. He's in Tulum, Mexico, so the Wi-Fi, like I said, is a little shoddy. So stick around. I promise you there's value here. It's going to be a fun 20 minutes. We are back on another episode of the Our Human Sustainability Podcast. Very excited to have on a special guest. Name is Matt Candee. I'm going to give you two intros, Mac, on how one is how normal podcasts work, and two is how I think the future is going to look, okay? So the first one is this. Matt Candee, the channel is WorldNomac, so I'm assuming that's a play on words from World Nomad, which is incredible. You are a 27-year-old full-time world traveler pursuing every country in the world, currently at 38 countries. You focus on content creation for TikTok and YouTube, specifically around like trips and itinerary recommendations and the best things to do and experience around the world. We're very excited to have you. So that's the first intro I'm going to give you. Here's the second one, and this might be the world one day. Welcome on Matt Candee. 6,000 YouTube subscribers, 9,000 IG followers, 37,000 TikTok followers, and 1.3 million views. Welcome on to the show.
Thank you so much, Sean. I appreciate both of those introductions. I like them both. You hit the nail on the head with those. I'm super excited to be on this show with you today, Sean. Your podcasts are amazing, and I'm honored and flattered to be able to join on one of your episodes.
My first question is this. I know you've told this story a couple of different times, but you have probably taken the most practical approach I have seen for someone who wants to be a world traveler, to do it right, to chase your passions, okay? So how did you come up with your game plan to one day be in the position that you're in? Because you are 27, you haven't been doing this since you were 20 or 21, like you had a full-time career before this. So how did you plan it all out, and how did you arrive at what you're doing right now?
So that's a great question, Sean. Basically, it all started, my passion for traveling all started back when I studied abroad in Spain in 2012. I was a broke college kid, studying abroad off student loans, going to school off student loans, but I loved traveling so much. And, you know, I was an average guy, I still am, that just fell in love with traveling, and I wanted to figure out how I was able to pursue that long term. And so after my study abroad trip in 2012, I had to go back for another 2 years to college. And then once again, I came to the conclusion that I don't have any money to travel. So I graduate, get my first job out of college, and I do a little bit of traveling here and there, but specifically I did a trip in 2016 with my brother to Thailand and absolutely fell in love with traveling. And at this point, I was only just about 1 year into my career, only probably $1,000 knocked out of my $65,000 in loans. And I was like, okay, this is a dream, but it's really not sustainable at all. And for me, I'm a risk taker, but I try and take calculated risks. And so specifically, I was like, all right, this is how much money I want to travel with. I read a book specifically called How to Travel the World on $50 per Day. And so that really gave me a baseline of what it costs to travel the world. And personally, based on some of the places I was going, I felt that I could get it for even cheaper. And so I took a look at it long term, and I said, all right, step one is I want to be debt free. I don't want to owe anyone money if I'm traveling. I want to just get that box checked. And I will tell you, that's hard, because sometimes you're like, hey, I can just pay the minimum payment on my student loans. And, you know, and then after that, I'll worry about it later. But I was like, I will feel that much better if I'm financially free stepping into the world of travel than if I still have that burden in the back of my mind. And so, yeah, step one was coming up with a financial plan. And when you think about it, $65,000 in loans plus saving up money to travel, that's a long time when you're fresh out of college. And so that motivated me immediately to work very, very, very hard in my corporate job. Every single day, probably putting on probably putting in almost twice the amount of hours as most of my colleagues, depending on who we're talking to. Some of my closest colleagues work even more than I did, but we put in a lot of work, and it worked out well because I was able to move up in the company, which meant I was able to create a larger income for myself to pay off these loans and to start saving up money. So as I progressed through the time, started paying things off, I will say it was very, very tough to not just rip the Band-Aid off and go travel, because when you set yourself a timeline and you can see the end date, but it's so far and you have tough days at work, but it's, it's what you want. It makes it so challenging, I will say, on some of those tough days to stay there. But I will say the day that I walked out on August 23rd in 2019 to be a full-time traveler was one of the most amazing feelings, because I set a goal for myself and I achieved that goal. And now I was going to pursue my passion. And that got me to where I am today, 15 months later, now traveling specifically in Tulum, Mexico at the moment. And I've been very happy. And that's what's led me to create actually a free video course for people that want to travel the world and what is my methodical approach to do it. I've created basically 20 different episodes on all the steps, from selling all my stuff to putting it in storage to how much money I saved to I had a previous girlfriend that had to tell her family that didn't necessarily support full-time travel. So I've put in both financially, emotionally, and everything surrounding that, all strategies related to these topics in order to help others travel the world, because it's just truly created who I am today.
What are the misconceptions when it comes to being a full-time content creator slash vlogger?
Misconceptions are that, so number one, I would say is a lot of my friends, even, they think I'm only traveling all the time and I'm only out partying all the time and I'm only having a good time. But I'm just simply not filming when I'm on my computer for 8 to 10 hours per day. And then when I am out traveling, I'm posting a lot of stories. So they're really only seeing one side of my life and they're not seeing the other, which is a lot of work, especially when you're creating on multiple different platforms. Personally, some days I even feel overwhelmed trying to create Instagrams, TikToks, YouTube videos. Some large influencers would say just go after one platform. In my opinion, I don't fully agree with that, because I like the variety, and you're giving yourself more opportunities to grow. Because if you only went on YouTube, you may never grow on YouTube, but maybe you'll blow up on TikTok. But going back to the question here, specifically with the misconceptions, there's just a lot of Instagram versus reality. You see people take those photos of, here's this beautiful spot, but then if you actually turn the camera sideways, there's 100 people sitting next to you trying to get that photo. That just happened to us here in Tulum, and it was so funny to see Instagram versus reality. Just know that things aren't always as real as they seem, and take that with a grain of salt, because everyone goes through challenges. Everyone has great days and bad days, and nobody's life is perfect. I know from following bigger creators, that's one thing that they've made a point to mention in their videos is, hey, we know we look like couple goals, but we have problems. We fight, we run into issues, we get mad at each other. There's a lot of real stuff that happens. It's just not always caught on camera. And so that's number one. Number two is traveling is not as expensive as you think. And the best way I will explain this is there are two types of travel. Number one is what I define as vacationing. That is going and flying first class or buying a ticket, the first one you find, not shopping it, just grabbing a flight to go somewhere, not worrying about the cost, then arriving to a very nice hotel, eating out at really nice places all the time for that period of time, maybe staying at all inclusives. That is what I define as vacationing. Vacationing is very, very expensive. It is not sustainable. As a content creator, I would not be able to sustain vacationing every single day. How I define the other side is what I define as more of traveling. So specifically with traveling, focused on your long-term idea that you want to explore places around the world. And in order to do that, whether you have a lot of money or a little money, you need to focus on, how do I live this lifestyle that I want, but do it in a sustainable way. And so the best way to look at it is, what are your largest costs? Usually you're going to have your largest cost as flights. So specifically, how do you bring down that cost, or how do you fly for free? So a great way I always do is I use airline miles. For the last 8 or 9 years, I've gotten over $50,000 in free flights from churning through travel rewards credit cards. Obviously, you have to do that responsibly, pay off your balance in full. You need to put that as a disclaimer.
Always, always.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one way. So that just checked the box for me now. Flights. I pretty much don't pay for flights, which is the most expensive part personally for my types of traveling. Number two is accommodation. This one will arguably be even more expensive than flying because accommodation can range from a very small amount per night to a massive amount. Going back again, you can stay in hotels and spend a lot of money, or you can stay in hostels. You can stay in dorm rooms and just have a bed inside of a hostel. Yes, it's not as luxurious. Yes, you're not going to have your private space, but you're going to meet people. You're going to live really cheap, maybe $7 a day for that hostel. You're going to immediately have friends because you're going to stay in the room, and that's going to push you to have those connections and make some of your best friends you have ever had. I love my friends from all different facets of life. When I travel, I have a lot of fun with those friends because we talk about travel the whole time, and you really connect at a deeper level with those people when you're traveling with them because you have so many experiences and things in common. And when you're staying in those hostels, that really gives you the opportunity to reap that benefit. Another way to get across accommodation is if you're going to go with a group of people. So for example, my friends and I just did an RV trip where we had a $150,000 RV that we rented, but it only came out to like $500 per person for 3 weeks. The most luxurious RV I'd
Wow.
ever been in, but it was so cheap because we split it amongst 7 different people. And so that's the beauty of traveling in a group. You can have a more luxurious style of traveling, but since there's so many people, you're able to bring those costs lower. So that misconception I wanted to mention because traveling is not actually expensive. It's just your spending habits that can make it expensive.
So the channel that I'm now focusing on around human sustainability is like a bunch of different pillars and just a big umbrella, right? And one of those things is like I was talking about the work you do and the fun you have. And so many people, they get tied up in these jobs for 40, 50 years. They're miserable the whole time. What advice do you have to people who might be on the fence, or maybe they're not on the fence, but they're unhappy and they don't have to go and be a traveler or whatever it might be? What advice do you have for them just to give them the courage to make a different decision so that way they are happy with their lives and they don't spend 40 or 50 years just miserable?
Yeah, that question I'm really excited to answer because I've been in that position. While I loved the experience I got at my last corporate job, it was very, very draining. I had a lot of bad days there. I had a lot of great days too. And don't get me wrong, I'm very happy I worked there. But 4.5 years of my life flew by. And while I did fun stuff on the weekends and I advanced in my career, that was great and all, but I was not feeling fulfilled. I was not getting what I wanted out of life, which was figuring out exactly what that is, but having the time to understand cultures and relationships and spending time with people I love and all of these things that are very important to me in life. I put those on the back burner during that time. For me, I was okay doing that because I had a very meticulous plan. And so I said, okay, this is temporary. But I want to lead that back to if I were to go back into the corporate world, I would very much focus on a work-life balance. Life passes by so quickly. You never know when your last day of living is. I will share one specific thing. One of the craziest stories or conversations someone's mentioned to me that really sat inside my head and still does to this day. It literally gives me goosebumps right now. I was asking my tour guide what he liked about his position. He was a winery bike tour guide in New Zealand. Really, really nice guy. Absolutely loved what he did. And he kind of gave me the information that, hey, I'm doing this not for the money. I'm doing this because every single day I do exactly what I love. And I was like, okay, well, what brought you into this specific role then? You know, what kind of drove you to go after your passion? And he said, well, my father spent every year of his life 30, 40 years of working really, really hard, always talking about exactly what he was going to do when he retired. He was so excited for that. That got him through every single workday. His father retires 3 months later, passes away,
Oh.
never does a single thing he ever wanted to do. And that right there was one of the most powerful statements, because I realized that life can pass by and all of these plans you had in mind could be gone immediately. And finding a balance between what you love, what you can do to make an income is so important. The one thing I'll say though, the hardest, the scariest, and the most challenging thing is taking a few steps back in life to take a few steps forward. That is the most challenging thing I have ever encountered. When I said bye to my corporate career, people are like, why are you throwing away your career? Why are you doing this? You don't have a following at all. You're never going to make money doing this. All of this negativity. And that got to me. That got to me all the time. Some days I would lay in bed and think about it. I'm like, what did I do? Like, but that's other people thinking they know what's best for you. Fast forward, getting through that mindset, I have every single day I wake up now, I wake up excited. I wake up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. most days, just because I can't wait to get up and spend the day doing what I love. And that's the importance of passion. And I want to mention that content creation isn't the only way to do this. It's just what I'm specifically passionate for. Just because you started in your current job right now doesn't mean you need to go after that. But what it does mean is you need to be okay with taking a few steps back. If I were to go into another career in the corporate world, I would go after something probably more creative. That would mean I would take a much lower title and salary than I had at my last job. But you need to be okay with that and trust that if you truly are passionate with that, you are going to blow past those levels of financial wealth. You're going to blow past those levels of emotional wealth, all of those things that are most important to creating an overall well-balanced life. And I think it's so important to take the time and really figure out what you love in life and take those risks and have the courage to do it. And don't let those people that are close to you tell you it's not what's best for you. I will say sometimes the people that are closest to you think they know what's best for you, but there is some sort of direct benefit for them to, whether it's physically or mentally, be closer to you for you to not go after that risk. You need to think about what's best for you and 100% pursue it. And if you make the wrong decision, if it doesn't work out for you, make another decision and go after your next goal.
Well, where can we connect with you? Where can we reach you? What are your socials? We'll put them all over the place, but I do want to make sure we have the opportunity for people to connect with you.
Appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely. So across all of my platforms, it's at WorldNomac, and then YouTube, it's just look up WorldNomac, Nomac, and Sean got that spot on. Nomac. Some people don't get it. They sometimes will see it very quickly and they'll think it says World of Mac, but it actually says WorldNomac, like World Nomad. But I had to make it a little punny. It actually took me 15 months, 22 months, something like that, to come up with the right name. So I will leave that with you guys. Give it time. If you can't figure out what name you want to give your personal brand or content channel, because it takes time, you need to have patience, and don't be afraid to change it if you find something you love. But yeah, guys, WorldNomac is where you can find me on Insta and TikTok, and my website's worldnomac.com. I have blogs and other resources that I know will be very helpful for others, whether it's on travel rewards, credit cards, or things to do in places around the world. And I'll be pursuing every single country in the world. And I want to show everyone how amazing every country is. Every single place I've visited, I've found a reason to love. And I'm excited to share that with all of you guys. And I'm so happy to be on this podcast today.
Man, we thank you so much for having you. I'm excited, hopefully have you on down the road and just kind of see how much it's grown and see the things that you've learned along the way. But again, thank you for taking time out of, bunkering down over there in Tulum, and we powered through the Wi-Fi, and we'll see how this whole thing turns out over there. But again, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean. It's been an absolute pleasure.
All right. Thank you again, Matt, for coming on the podcast. Like I said, there's so much value there that we had to make 2 podcasts out of it. So half of it wasn't even in there. So I'm just very pleased that he was able to come on and kind of fight through the Wi-Fi issues over there in Tulum. Like I said, the next podcast with him is going to be coming out around specifically what it's like to be an influencer. It talks about how you make money as an influencer, what you should be doing between YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. He kind of breaks it all down, and he answers a lot of questions that, I think a lot of us have when it comes to being a content creator. So I'm looking forward to episode 2. Smash the subscribe button, smash the like button, smash the notifications button, so that way you're ready for when part 2 comes out. Thank you again for taking the time to watch this thing, and Mac, thank you so much for coming on.